Hey guys, um, welcome back to my channel. Um,
Tinubu should step aside. Tinubu should step down.
Sorry about that. I didn't want to start that yet, but listen. Um, I want to talk about the situation in the world, but more specifically in Nigeria. Where do I start, man? Things in the world is, at the very least, is shaky. Okay. Well, as you guys know, this station is called Wasobia Finance. And it's not just finance, economics. Mm, I know one or two things about finance and economics. So let me focus on that because in today's society, that's what it's coming down to: finance and economics, and of course technology. Which I know few one or two things about it too. So I can definitely talk about those three things: economics, finance, and economic finance and technology. Excuse me. So, well, situation in Nigeria, largest economy in Africa, is pretty bad. Let's just put it that way. Things are tough. There's hunger in the land. There's a lot of people complaining about the current government administration. But high inflation. I'm not going to talk about the solutions, at least not yet. But let's just look at what we're dealing with. High inflation, high cost of living. Is that peculiar to just Nigeria? No. It's everywhere. It's in Nigeria, it's in Africa, it's in Europe, it's in America, it's in Canada, you name it. Okay? So this is the reality. The thing is that globalization is doing something to humanity that is a two-edged sword. Okay? There's some pros and there's some cons to it. It's always been that way from the beginning, but I think the con is becoming very pronounced in 2024 than it's ever been. That's one. And the second part of it is that I feel like the things that is happening also is biblical in nature. Why do I say it's biblical in nature? Because it's not just happening in one continent; it's everywhere. Okay. When something is this global, it, to me it feels like very biblical. It's like when you have World War or wars in different part of the world or pandemic and stuff like that. In the last days, I'm not a preacher. I'm not trying to preach it, but I do know one or two things about the Bible. It did say in the last days, that there will be hunger, starvation, diseases, wars, talk of wars. Man will rule man to his own injury, which we have seen that. I think is very evident in country like Nigeria. All the decades or years of bad policy, corruption, criminality is so rampant. Okay. Anyway, we can have a lot conversation about this, but I don't want the video to be too long. And of course, I have other things I want to try to cover based on my energy level because this thing is a lot. Um, so there's one aspect of the situation that we're dealing with. I just want to play a few videos from YouTube so that you guys can actually see what's going on in society today. Starting with video in Nigeria about the basically call it the hunger protest that is going on over there, and the president basically not knowing what to do. And I think part of the problem is that you know there are people that have solution, and there's some part of the world that people are more honest, should I say, in a way that they've put in their best and they're the most skillful in what they do, and in a way been able to manage the situation a little bit than other part of the world. I think that's the reality. The situation is all over the world, but some countries are able to manage it better than other countries. Countries that are not able to manage it, the 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 reality is dire. Is dire. Just put it that way. It's dreadful. And one such place is Nigeria, and maybe some part of most part of Africa, if not all of Africa, and most part of Europe, if not all of Europe, and some part of North America and Asia. Same situation. Nobody is excluded in what we're saying. And the way it's going, it feels like 2024. 2024. 2024 is going to be one for the history book, I think. But anyway, let's get into some of the videos.
And allow those who can rule with sense to rule us. Because right now, he has been asked, what can you say about this situation that's going on? He said he doesn't know. They ask him.
This time
He is confused.
He's talking about the president. People asking him, what are you going to do about the situation? He said he doesn't know. If the president doesn't know, who knows? So basically, that basically explains everything.
Tinubu just step down because he's not capable to be there. Or else, one day, the youth will rise. One day, and it's about to happen. Very soon it will happen, and they will see it in their eyes. Very soon it will happen. Let it stop down, or let army take over. Let you see, best way, all these people, in fact, because of what is happening now, that is why.
A little bit of thing about regarding what that guy just said, the army should take over. You know, just a couple of step back. Okay, let's think about what has happened to most of the surrounding countries. Mali, Niger, because those countries has been taken over by the military. A coup, basically. Doesn't mean they don't have the solution, but that's what has happened. And some people are thinking that if military takeover will be the solution, which is most likely not going to be the solution. It will be change in the situation, but not necessary for the better. Okay. So let's continue.
Many people are going into robbery, stealing, and if you check what they are
Well, that's another thing. You know, when there is poverty in the land, crime would increase. So it's a basic economic principle. You know, increase in poverty, increase in crime, and other vices. So, and in a country that was already volatile like this, might as well the magnifying effect of hunger and famine in the land. We're talking about a 10x multiplicity here. Big thing.
Stealing is not even big thing. It may be just food or phone that they will collect in order to sell, in order to have little money to eat food. Food is very, very important. They close the border, close everywhere. For nothing to come inside.
Well, let me address this from an economic viewpoint. The guy referring to closing of the border. Yes, closing of the border in a situation in a country like this, bad strategy. And without going into a lot of details from the economic angle, you shouldn't close your border, because when you close your border, you isolate yourself. You become what they call it, isolationist. Okay, that is not good. There is a strategic way you can control import into your country, and there is a strategic agreement you can make with other countries so that what is imported and exported, there is a mutual benefit. Just closing down the border, and without even knowing why you're closing down the border, in the name saying that you're trying to encourage local manufacturing. You have no idea what that means, local manufacturing, trying to encourage. In what sense? So that's a wrong policy, wrong strategy, no idea what they were doing. So that has added to the problem.
I don't understand. We are in our father's land, and we are living as a slave. Brother, you check am now. It's not fair. It's not fair. Just because that you have the opportunity to sit up there and everything that you are looking for is made available.
Okay, so I'm going to stop playing this video. I don't want to play the entire video. You get the point. Things are hard. Okay, let's move on to this other video that I have here so that you guys can see what's going on.
The challenges we are facing in Nigeria is a man-made disaster.
Okay,
It's
so
a
this is
failure
one
of
of the
leadership
chairman of one of the
from
political parties.
federal government to
Listen to
state
him.
government to local government.
I forgot his last
It's
name.
a
They will show it on the
combination
screen.
of conspiracy of leadership that led us to where we are today. Virtually every sector of the economy have collapsed. Even though...
Did you hear what it says? It says basically all sector of the economies have collapsed. It's funny it says that because that's not only true, but the fact that some sector of the economy never worked in the first. They don't even have it. Manufacturing is not there. Service sector is basically non-existent. And when we call the basic, all the different part of the economies have collapsed, the government is also part of the economies. When the government responsible for monetary policies, economic policies, and they failed to do that, so that's gone. Okay. So when you have all of this gone, manufacturing, government, service, and when I say service, it includes the traders, technical services, medical services, all of that gone. Manufacturing, basically producing the things you use, the thing you sell, gone. Government, policy, monetary policies, gone. Economic policies, not there. Security, which is part of the government, that's gone. Infrastructure, which is part of the factor of, that falls under the government, gone. So basically, and the problem is that this has not existed in a very long time. So he's just restating the obvious, just in case you didn't know. Let's continue.
They inherited a collapsed system, but they apply for the job from the same party. And there was no creativity in terms of rejiggling the economy, rejiggling the policy, and creating deterrence. They are aware that the country had been looted out before taking over. We never had it in the history of Nigeria, the profiteering and racketeering of the Central Bank of Nigeria, NNPC, the biggest cartel ever in the history of Nigeria recorded, that grounded the economy. CBN have no power to hijack public individuals' account. The change of the currency, the redesign of the currency, crippled the economy of Nigeria to its knees.
Down on this video, as I progress on this video today, you see the effect of stealing and corruption. Okay, over time, the magnifying effect of stealing and corruption is 10 times what has been stolen. That's one. And now people are seeing that. 2, central bank goes back again to what I said, bad policy to date. Redesign of Naira for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure was for personal interest because it wasn't for the interest of the people. Created a massive amount of difficulty and trouble in society. Economic hardship. Without proper thinking and proper application of any of these things. What do you expect? Let's continue.
To the community level. People cannot bring out their chicken to sell it, nobody to buy it. People lost their memory. What happened? What was the foundation of where we are today? Those that specialize in farming are no longer farming under two circumstances. One, the insecurity scared them from going to their farms. Two, the cost of fertilizer is beyond their purchasing power. Now, how do you compare the two? You remove subsidy on petroleum. You do not put subsidy on fertilizer that produces food for the entire country. Not too long.
Okay, so he makes a good point here. Okay, there's no solution, as one philosopher said, but there is only trade-off. Okay, so if the government removes subsidy in petrol price, which greatly impacted the economic sector of the country, transportation costs shoot up, fuel prices went up, significantly affecting everybody, the common person to anybody. Okay, that's one. The second part of that is that when they removed the subsidy, they did not apply it to any other thing, like fertilizer that is mentioning of. That would help with the cost of farming, right? And as a result of that, it would help minimize production price.
I mean, all the borders, Ogun, Benin Republic, and what have you, hundreds of trailers taking food to West African coast. We have a population of over 250 million, which is a plus for any nation. But when you cannot feed the population turns against the country. You have graduates. Their parents sold their property to send them to school. You did not provide any hope for them, no job for them. The private sector is dead. People are running out. Is it not a man-made disaster? It's a man-made disaster. It's a policy, it's a failed policy issue that have no human face. Less than 1% of 1% of Nigerians are looting and milking the country out, and they are known.
So there you have it. Less than 1% of 1% of the country of the people in the country are the one that are basically stealing from the country. Okay. Let's go on to other videos. You see what the whole of Nigeria and Africa looks like.
I'm Balako Ademiroko in Lagos, and this is Africa Matters. People in Africa's biggest economy, Nigeria, have been protesting against the skyrocketing cost of basic food items, which have simply become unaffordable. The African Development Bank is warning that there could be more social unrest in other parts of the continent.
There is no food. My gas has finished 3 days ago. It's now 1:05. We don't have money. We can't call house. This hunger is too much. And it's not like this before. Look at us now. There is nothing. We are starving. Tinubu should please do something. This is not his promise. He promised to do better. Look at us now.
But it's not only Nigeria that's feeling the heat. The African Development Bank is warning that the rising cost of food and energy, along with currency depreciation in countries like Angola, Ethiopia, and Kenya, could trigger social unrest. That's despite an economic growth forecast of 3.8% for the continent this year, which is higher than the global average. Palum David went to find out how people are trying to balance their budgets in Nigeria's capital, Abuja.
Inflation rate has risen to almost 30% according to local authorities. President Bola Tinubu last year announced the removal of fuel subsidy.
By the way, That's the official statistic. Inflation risen by 30%, but the reality on ground, everything has risen at least 150%. Everything that you used to buy, take for instance, if you used to buy something for 50 naira, now it's 130 naira, 150 naira. So it's not 30%. That's the quote unquote official. That is far from reality. If it was just 30%, most people would not be complaining.
And floated the national currency, the naira, as part of his economic reforms.
To imagine that we buy pure water 50 naira, one piece of pure water 50 naira in the market, a plate of food 1,700 naira. So it's not easy. So we are praying to government to help Nigerians.
Let's touch on the floating of the naira. The floating of the naira is not the problem, but the floating of the naira without a strategy, without a good monetary policy, is the problem. Okay.
The thing is affecting the business very well. If you go to market, and many have closed because they cannot meet up again.
See trouser come buy for market. How much? 10,000 trouser just to wear like this. Trouser 10,000. Something what would they buy 15 naira, 10 naira before 10,000. Look at trouser. Make what the whole world help me see.
Maybe they don't patronize market like this. They have people that they send. So they don't care about what happened. They don't even care. Even if today dollar is 1,900 naira, they don't care about it. What are we even using the dollar for? Please, what concerns us with dollar? This is wickedness. To me, it's wickedness. For we to have a government that don't care about the people. What is the meaning of government without the people?
Nigeria's labor union has given an ultimatum to the government to address the worsening hardship and hunger in the country decisively.
Let's hear more from Femi Oladayin, an economic analyst. He joins me here in Lagos. When do you think people will start reaping the rewards of these painful economic reforms?
Well, I don't think that economics works that way.
Well, first of all, there's nothing like a reward of this painful. You're not making a sacrifice. There's no austerity cut. It's not like the government is cutting anything. They're just not managing anything. So there's no reward to be expected. Okay. Anyway, I wanted to show you guys that this is not just Nigeria. Let's go to let's go to Ghana.
Of the people, so that the effort that they're putting in yields higher results for them. And I think if we're able to do this in a sustainable way, you would find a continent in the next 10 years that's probably as seen as an Asian tiger, if our governments are able to focus on doing this. But the truth is that Africans are suffering right now, and government needs
plunge a significant number of Ghanaians into poverty and make life even worse. Rollins Sikamam reports from the capital, Accra.
The usual bustling nightlife of Nima is no more. Residents have been forced to live in partial darkness because they cannot pay their electricity bills. So they keep their lights on for only 8 hours a day.
You buy 100 cedis worth of credit and in 3-4 days it is gone. You are unable to on your fridge which you use in doing your business.
Electricity tariffs went up by almost 30% in the first quarter of last year and rose again by 18% by June, and is impacting food prices and various sectors of the economy, including manufacturing and agriculture. President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Openg, says many businesses have already succumbed to the pressure, leading to job losses and rising unemployment.
Almost every quarter, there's changes in the price of the utilities. That's why the cross-border trading activities, we are lagging behind.
And now a new 15% VAT on residential.
Okay, basically, in this situation, electricity has gone up almost 70% in price, and that's a trickle down to everything. Again, inflation, bad management, bad government policy management. But above all of this is the global problem. When I say global problem, the global recession, there's a global recession as we speak in many large economies of the world. And the problem is that, yes, bad government in Africa has exacerbated the problem. But this problem, it's like two storms coming to meet together. They only get bigger. So you have bad government in Africa, in Nigeria, bad policy. Now a global recession added to that. I don't need to say more what that means. And maybe the end times is also playing into this. So you got a threefold problem, my friend. Okay? Let's look at what's going on in the other part of the world.
McDonald's as we know it in America. That's right, everyone. McDonald's is having big issues, most notably related to how much they have increased the prices of their food. I just went into this McDonald's here where a Big Mac meal cost $11.79 before taxes and is now at a price where people simply can't afford to come to McDonald's anymore. With McDonald's CEO now reporting that those making less than $45,000 a year have stopped coming to the store. After all, the price of a...
What's the key here? Again, prices have gone up. The interesting thing is that people making $45,000 can no longer afford food at McDonald's. $45,000 a year. $45,000 a year. In today's current exchange rate in Nigeria is over 60 million naira a year. Those people cannot afford to eat McDonald's. Of course, we're not comparing apple to apple. Yes, apple to orange. In Nigeria, of course, with that kind of money, you'll be able to eat a hamburger. But in America, you won't be able to eat a hamburger. So a person making 60 million naira in a year in Nigeria is basically poor in America. You can't eat McDonald's in America.
Big Mac across America, it's gone up by 280% over the last 2 decades, with the most expensive Big Macs occurring here in states like New York as well as in Connecticut, where there's an $18 Big Mac meal in Southwest Connecticut. Because I think a lot of us grew up going to McDonald's with much more affordable prices. Back in the 1990s, a Big Mac meal cost less than $3, everyone. If you take a look at this advertisement from a mid-1990s McDonald's, you could get a Big Mac meal for less than $3, you can get chicken nuggets for less than $2, and even back in the mid-2000s, McDonald's had the dollar menu, where you could order a whole bunch of stuff for $1.
Well, guys, you see, the problem is not just Africa, it's just worse Africa. Let's see other part of the world. I think we'll still be in America here.
Nearly 1 out of 4 EU citizens is poor or at risk of poverty.
We have still 119 million people at risk of poverty or social exclusion, and this is unacceptable.
3 groups are primarily affected.
1 out of 4 EU citizens is at risk. It's either in poverty or at risk of poverty. So when you meet 4 people on the road, in the mall, one of them is either poor or in poverty. You know what that means? 1 is not too far from 2, whereby half of the people will be poor. The other 2 will not be poor, basically. Doesn't mean they're rich, by the way. Let's continue.
Poor children, currently 25 million.
The most fundamental thing is that every child should have a hot meal. And while some of us take it for granted, that is not the case.
Unemployed or uneducated adolescents and young adults, 1 out of 6.
Ci sono soltanto lavori a orari improponibili, sottopagati e comunque per gente che un giorno ci
Basically, unemployment is high. I think in Europe or in this country specifically it's almost 50%. Can you believe that? Anyway, let's look at let's get a summary here because I don't want the video to be too long. what is actually going on in the world right now.
Out in recession. UK, Japan in recession. Germany's probably next.
China's economy is suffering from deflation.
So we have to start asking the question.
Okay. China economy is suffering from deflation. That's the opposite of inflation. Instead of things going up in China, the price is going down. And when the price is going down, normally suppliers don't want to produce anymore because they're not making money. And basically that turns into inflation automatically. It's like the flip side of that will happen as a result of that.
Question: could 2024 be worse than 2008? I'm going to explain this to you in 3 simple, fast steps. Step number 1, let's go.
2008 was when they have the worst financial meltdown in the entire club. Worst economic situation happening. So when he's comparing to 2024 to 2008, he's comparing it to the worst time in the last, give or take, 10 years, 15 years. Okay?
Over this global recession that we're likely entering, or maybe we've already entered. Now, I know a lot of you right about now are saying, George, what are you talking about? The stock market is at all-time highs. The unemployment rate here in the United States is almost at all-time lows. Okay, fair point. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But before we do, let's take a look at how the global economy works. And yes, this is a simplification, if you couldn't already tell. So I want to point out initially that the global economy is very interconnected. All right, we've got the United States right here, obviously. We have the UK, Germany, China, Japan. Okay, well, right now, Germany is in recession. In fact, the whole Eurozone is most likely headed for recession. We've got China that is reporting outright deflation, the worst deflation they have had in decades. Now, officially, they're not in recession yet, but tell me how a modern-day economy can have quarter after quarter of deflation and not eventually go into an economic contraction. Japan, they're in recession. The UK, they're in recession. But the United States, our economy is booming? Well, how does that work? First of all, editor, go ahead and throw up a chart. We have to recognize that the 4 main economies for manufacturing would be China at 28%, United States at 16%.
Let me just say something real quick. Even though the US economy is still managing to be okay right now, the reality is that statistically, based on what this guy is going to show you anyway, and you could tell, because of the global economic situation, there's no way the US would escape. That would be extraordinary that they will escape recession. But that aside, that has not changed the fact that there is inflation. There is increase in the cost of living, which is the most primary cause of pain across the globe. Things are too expensive for people to afford. And because of that, a lot of people are falling into poverty. That's the key you have to take away from this.
Japan 7, Germany 5. Now, these statistics are from 2018, but the percentages might change slightly, but the 4 major players are still going to be the same. So let's think through how this works. China exporting goods to Japan, Japan exporting goods to China, China exporting goods to Germany, and Germany doing the exact same thing. And even with the United States, we produce way, way, way less than we consume. We still export a lot. So it's a similar type of relationship where China exporting a lot of goods to the United States, but we're exporting goods to China, UK. It's all interconnected. So what happens is if Germany, China, Japan, UK go into a recession, well, that's going to impact the demand for all of the people that we're exporting to. That means our exports go down. So what likely happens to our GDP? And of course, the rebuttal for that is going to be, George, don't you know anything? The United States doesn't need to export stuff. 70% of our economy is consumption. So if we don't have demand outside of the United States, then we'll just consume all of that extra stuff right here in the good old US of A. Okay, well, that really doesn't make a lot of sense, because what we have to realize is that all the stuff that we are exporting is a surplus. In other words, there's not enough demand for that stuff in the United States of America. Let me give you a specific example. We export a lot of food. Let's just say corn and poultry and chicken. So I don't know that anyone would argue that Americans can eat more than they already do. I think they eat plenty as it is. So if we didn't have these customers, let's say in China, buying our chicken and buying our corn, could we just sell that right into the United States at the exact same price? No. We might be able to get rid of it, but we'd have to reduce the price, decrease margins. If we decrease the price, what does that do to nominal GDP? Brings it down. But that's not all. Let's look at it from the flip side of the coin. Like we said earlier, the United States does export a lot, but we import way, way, way more, which is why we have these massive trade deficits. Okay, well, if Germany is going into recession, China depression, all of this economic activity is decreasing, what that means is there's probably going to be a lot of entities that will go bust. A lot of those entities are providing goods, the goods that we consume here in the U.S. Let's go over a specific example of something that's happening right now as we speak. It's very topical. It's this trucker protest for New York City. Editor, let's cut to the internet. We can go ahead and connect some dots and see.
Well, basically, you get the point. The end result is that everybody's going to be in the same part. And we're already seeing the symptom of that. High prices. Economics have slowed down across the world. Economic activity have slowed down across the world, which basically encourages the high prices. Because the little that is being produced is being now sold in a high price. Because people don't see the need to produce more. Because people are not buying. Or cannot afford to buy it. So anyway, guys, let me stop here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Share the video. Encourage the channel so that we can bring more knowledge and enlighten more people about what's going on in the world today. Thank you.